Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Anna Yudin. I'm a doctor of clinical psychology and a fiction author. And today we're going to talk about what happens when you try to set a boundary with a manipulator. Specifically, the 9 common manipulation tactics that you're going to see. After I discuss the 9 common tactics, I'm going to have a role play, a skit to really show you this in action. So let's get started. Number 1, when you try to set a boundary with somebody manipulative, the very first thing that they're going to try is probably to invalidate your right to the boundary, or demanding your reasons to be explained to them so that they can poke holes into it. Examples of invalidating your right to having the boundary could sound like, you shouldn't feel that way, that's not how I mean it, I don't see why I have to change what I do, that's not reasonable, I don't understand. An example of somebody demanding your reasons for a boundary in order to poke holes into it would be, for example, let's say that you want to spend Mother's Day with the mother of your children, your wife, and your mom is mad about that. She might ask you about the specific details of your daily plans, so that she can figure out a way to shift it back to what she wants. Manipulative people often have a constellation of traits such as entitlement, selfishness, lack of empathy, and this means that they're incapable of putting themselves in the other person's shoes and imagining why that person might be setting the boundary they're setting. And they don't think that other people have a right to be making requests of them, even when it comes to things like, I want to be treated with basic respect and human dignity. Because if a person is entitled, they kind of feel like, well, I should be able to do whatever I want, no limits imposed. Now look, some boundaries truly aren't reasonable, and I think we have to be honest about that. Assessing the validity of certain boundaries is okay. You know, if somebody is saying, I want for you to look after my kids from this day to this day, and that person cannot do it, just because you're trying to set that boundary doesn't mean it's valid, right? Or if you're trying to set a boundary that limits somebody else's autonomy, just because you call it a boundary doesn't mean it happens in a vacuum, doesn't mean it's necessarily valid. So I think there's a time and place for a little bit of pushback about boundaries and a little bit of questions of like, hey, I don't really understand why you're asking this of me. But that's not really what we're talking about here. We're talking about the ways in which people respond to reasonable boundaries that exist to protect a person's emotional safety. And even if you're setting an unreasonable boundary, the way that a person reacts to it should not be manipulative, but rather an open discussion about why they disagree with it, why they don't think it's reasonable. A manipulative person, on the other hand, will continue through this list of manipulation tactics, such as number 2, denying the behavior for which you are stating a boundary, which can be in some cases gaslighting. Usually when you set a boundary, it's informed by a person's past behavior, something that they've done in the recent past. But a manipulative person will not admit that they took part in that behavior. Manipulative people often have a personality structure that makes them unable to accept negative feedback about their behavior. It makes them feel very ashamed, and they're very preoccupied with seeing themselves as this good and perfect person, and with you seeing them that way. So they will go to extreme lengths to deny their behavior, to preserve this idealized self-image. They conveniently don't remember things that you vividly remember happening. They question your memory. They seem convinced that they did not do or say what you are accusing them of, sometimes even if you have proof. And in many cases, they truly believe that. It's crazy making, and if you've experienced this enough times, especially over the course of your formative years, then you will truly start to doubt your own judgment, to second guess yourself even when you know you remember what happened. Now, in some cases, like I said, you might have actual proof of the behavior, written evidence, eyewitnesses, a recording, court documents. If a manipulative person cannot deny their behavior, they will then resort to the next technique of distorting the behavior. Oh, they did do what you said, but you completely misinterpreted it. You're reading all these negative intentions into it. You're overreacting. What they actually did is not that bad, even though you're explaining the ways in which it was harmful to you. There is no limit to what the human mind will do in order to preserve self-esteem. Even non-manipulative people are capable of completely rewriting history to avoid cognitive distortion, to be able to sleep at night, given the mistakes that they've made. We fundamentally cannot stand when we have caused harm to others unless we consciously decide to practice emotion regulation and hold ourselves accountable. Manipulative people may also try justifying their behavior. Yes, they did do what you said that they did, but in their mind it was completely justified. You asked for it. It doesn't matter how outlandish or hurtful the behavior was, there's always a justification simply because it's them we're talking about. They want you to empathize with all the factors that led to their behavior because at the end of the day, they feel they were right to do what they did. They're not sorry. They don't really see anything wrong with it. They think they should be able to say and do whatever they want. And the irony is that people who are so lax with themselves and quick to make excuses for themselves are usually quite harsh with other people when they make a mistake. They can justify the most egregious violations when it comes to themselves, like being an abusive person, but they think it's out of line if another person even looks at them the wrong way, and they feel justified to retaliating however they see fit. When someone is confronting you about your behavior, your reasons for taking part in that behavior are not really relevant. Your intentions are not relevant. The focus should be on the way that the other person feels and what they are asking you to change. But manipulative people do not grasp that. Something else that manipulative people will try when you set a boundary is to play the victim. They might bring up ways in which they were wronged by the world, or even by you. They might talk about their sob story from their past, or what they're going through at the current moment that they feel should justify or explain what's happening. When none of the aforementioned techniques work, manipulators start to pull out more insidious tactics. At first, they've tried to smooth over their image by changing your perception of their behavior, but if that doesn't work, they're going to deflect their behavior onto yours. And that is where you might see them actually accusing you of wronging them accusing you of making them a victim. Manipulators intrinsically understand that the best way to shift focus off of them is to make someone feel defensive. When someone's accusing you of something, you're not thinking about what they did. In that moment, you're thinking about how to defend yourself. So you come to them with a boundary, but now they flipped the script. You're the violator, they're the victim. Because ultimately they hold a very idealized image of themselves. They can do no wrong ever. So you're unfair for suggesting that they can. And in their minds, they are a victim. You have no right to demand respect from them. They're entitled to behaving however they please. And you're a mean bully for standing in their way. Another technique that goes hand in hand with playing the victim, because both of these are elements of emotional blackmail, is guilting you. Manipulators don't usually feel empathy for the person they've hurt when they're confronted with their behavior. Instead, they weaponize the other person's empathy by trying to make them feel like the bad guy. They might say things like, "You'll regret this one day when I'm gone. I don't deserve to be treated this way," meaning held accountable. "After all I've done for you, this is how you treat me. I gave my life to my children on a silver platter. Oh, I see, maybe you can return all the money I spent on you. It's like you don't even care how this conflict is affecting my health. I've been going through so much." Once a manipulator gets to this phase, it can be extremely destabilizing and confusing for the person on the receiving end. Even the strongest, most informed of people may struggle with self-doubt at this stage. They truly will start to wonder if they're being unfair to the other person, if they've done something wrong in this situation. And the irony of it all is that the manipulative person would never feel guilty for how they treated you. Simply because you're considering the possibility that you could be in the wrong, you are proving that you're not like them, that they're probably the problem. And also related to these last couple of techniques is something called DARVO, which is basically flipping the script, turning it on you. DARVO stands for Deny, Attack, Reverse, Victim, and Offender. They deny it. I didn't do what you said. They attack by threatening or intimidating the other person. And they reverse who is the victim and who is the offender. You are the aggressor in this situation for standing up for yourself. Again, it's very destabilizing. You start to feel like you're a terrible person and wonder if maybe they're right. Because like I said, the easiest way to get off scot-free is to make the person you're talking to start to question their own morality. Technique number 8, punishing you with anger. If none of the above techniques have worked, the manipulative person will just try to punish the behavior. Punishing in like a conditioning sense, in like a behavioral psychology definition. They're trying to decrease your behavior by punishing it through an angry reaction. It could be through yelling, it could be through withdrawing or stonewalling, it could be through violence. The methods vary, but one thing stays very consistent. They want to make sure that you never again confront them about their behavior, that you are too scared to bring up anything next time. And number 9, the last thing that a manipulative person will try when you set a boundary with them is to ignore or violate the boundary in the future. A person who has run through all these manipulation techniques is very unlikely to really respect your boundary in the future. They will most likely bulldoze right past it, and it will be really important for you to reinforce it consistently. It's generally expected that people will try to loosen boundaries that inconvenience them. Even non-manipulative people do this when they have a boundary that doesn't serve them. So expect it, anticipate it, and prepare for it. Now let me show you a skit demonstrating all of these manipulation tactics. Hey John, do you have a minute?
Yeah, what's up?
Yesterday at lunch, I didn't appreciate how you told the whole table about my family situation. In the future, I'd like for you to keep things I told you in confidence private.
Wait, what? What did I do? I don't remember saying anything about your family.
Notice how John is denying the behavior here. No, you did. We were talking about family drama as a group, and then you made a joke about my brother's disease in front of everyone.
Ariana, I'm really caught off guard here. If I said something about your brother, it was definitely not to disparage him. If anything, I was probably trying to be supportive.
Again, John is denying the behavior and honestly veering a little bit into gaslighting. He's rewriting history and distorting his version of what happened. I believe your exact words were, "Oh, Ariana knows a thing or two about mentally ill family." How exactly was that being supportive?
Oh, you really misunderstood what I was saying. Goodness, Ariana. No, I was not trying to make a joke about your brother. Is that how little you think of me?
John is still denying and gaslighting, but he's starting to sprinkle in, turning it on Ariana. She's the one wrong for misunderstanding him. She's being insulting by suggesting he did something for which there were multiple eyewitnesses. We all heard it, John. How could I be misinterpreting things?
I don't know, maybe you all decided to turn on me or something. Wouldn't be the first time you guys set out to put me in my place for speaking openly.
Now John has decided to play the victim. Ariana originally came to him with a complaint, but now he's trying to flip the situation so that he's the one who feels mistreated. He's also distorting the facts of what happened. He wasn't making a malicious joke at someone's expense using private information given to him in confidence. He was just speaking openly. He's being martyred for being honest. This isn't about you speaking openly. This is about the fact that you made a cruel joke at my brother's expense in front of other people. Look, all I'm asking you to do is just be more mindful with what you say. Please don't tell other people things I've told you in confidence or use them as the butt of a joke.
Cruel joke? I'm just shocked to hear this. I don't remember you telling me to keep your brother's situation private when you told me. Do I now need to operate as if everything you tell me is top secret?
Here John is trying to justify himself. He's framing the boundary as unreasonable as it could be, when in fact it's quite the bare minimum. Of course not. Only things that are sensitive or personal. You can discern for yourself what might be appropriate or inappropriate to share with others if I haven't explicitly asked you to keep something private.
Discern for myself? And what if I don't know the exact call you would want me to make? Then I'll be crucified for it, like you're doing now?
He is again making the boundary seem unreasonable, violating Ariana's right to it, asking questions to try to poke a hole in this very simple request. All I'm doing is requesting that you be more careful with what you share with others about my life. I understand that you feel it's unfair of me to ask this of you, but comparing it to crucifixion is pretty extreme.
Oh, so you're allowed to just feel however you want about the situation, but I'm not, huh? I see how it is. Come on, Ariana. Have you never been in the situation where you put your foot in your mouth? You've never blabbered about the wrong thing before?
Here John is turning the attention on Ariana's hypothetical errors, trying to get her to empathize with him so that he can circumvent the consequences of his actions. He's also starting to get angry so that he can punish this behavior in her. We're talking about you right now, what you said. If you ever feel like I put my foot in my mouth about something, I urge you to let me know. But that's not the topic of discussion right now. You know, John, it's starting to feel like you're deflecting from the topic at hand.
Oh, so what? I'm just the worst person in the world.
Here we see more angry self-victimization. Again, John is trying to induce guilt in Ariana for bringing up a boundary or complaint. What? I never said that. Again, all I'm asking of you is to be more sensitive when sharing personal things about my life with others.
Got it. Yeah. I'll just keep my mouth shut and speak when spoken to from here on out.
At this point, John is angry. He's getting ready to stonewall. He's punishing Ariana for setting a boundary so that she'll be too scared to set another one in the future and hold him accountable. I've said my piece. I don't think this conversation is constructive anymore, so have a nice day. Sorry.
Oh, thank goodness, Ariana. No, I was not trying to make a joke.
So cute.
Monkey girl.
Go ahead.
Oh, you really misunderstood what I was trying to say. Cruel joke? Cruel joke? I'm just shocked to hear this. I don't recall you asking me about your brother's situation. Oh. Cruel joke? You really misunderstood what I was saying. Oh, that was the last one. Cruel joke?
Sorry. Get started on.
What is this monkey girl?
She's fine. It's perfect for the bloopers.
Cruel joke? I'm really shocked to hear this.
Yay. Show her to the camera.
Her butthole?
Not her butthole. She does a good enough job of that. She's drooling on it.
Meow.
So cute. Final thoughts. Look, don't expect a manipulative person to change even if you stick to your guns. Don't expect them to not practice these techniques. Don't expect that you can change the way that they are or even really control their reactions. The important part is not that they adhere to your boundary, but rather that you adhere to the consequence of that boundary not being respected. So do manage your frustration with their manipulativeness, but without trying to change their manipulativeness, because if you're trying to change them as a person, you're trying to change something that is ultimately uncontrollable, and you'll feel very powerless and frustrated about it. So yes, do practice emotion regulation about how frustrating it is. Maybe you also feel other emotions like grief or sadness or guilt. Process through that. Do not try to change them, accept that they are the way that they are, and ultimately keep reinforcing the boundary and adhering to the consequence of when they inevitably do not respect it. If you'd like to learn more about this, the skills required for healthy relationships are in the connection course, so check that out. Take care.